stage here?
And yeah, our plan was to
Or
make the Miro board public. That way people can get
yeah,
involved and brainstorm together.
yeah, it looks great. I guess I don't know really where the starting point is. I'm still looking for that, but the I guess the weekly meeting or very various like areas here to look at.
Feel like you get an insight into hardcore's brain with this Miro. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I don't know if it needs to be editable. I mean, I guess we could, but at least having the view only public is really useful.
Well, sure. Yeah, I can get us started. We're a couple minutes after now.
Mhm.
Well, I'm pretty
Sure.
excited about this. It's our first DAO meeting. Our goal with this was to really solicit community feedback and bring us together on all the issues that are coming up in the DAO so we can kind of have a united front, brainstorm together, and then keep each other on the same page with what's going on, what our plans are for things, why we're submitting things. And then when we do have a big proposal to allow the group to be able to like see that and kind of ponder over it and give feedback so it doesn't feel like it came out of nowhere. And also we have quite a few, task forces that do things and how can we efficiently communicate what they're doing to the rest of the DAO and then check in with them. But yeah, so from the DTF uh, perspective, I
Just
just
real
wanted to,
quick, I just want to make
yeah.
sure we are recording before we
Oh,
get
good
into it.
point.
I think Zombie Shepherd is recording. Yeah, okay, he says yeah, so good to go.
Great. Uh, yeah, not a ton of updates, but a couple on from the DTF. So from funding perspective, um, we have two active projects that the DTF is funding. So the first is the 9 Adepts production by Friendless Summer and Bin Laden. We have voted unanimously to fund that. And what we are waiting on from that perspective is some, I think that IP lawyer from Pixelcraft needs to get some forms to Friendless Summer and crew to sign that so they
Mm.
can proceed. And once we have that, then we will fund them and then they will begin production. It's just the
Yeah, it's
licensing agreement.
yeah, we should have that. We've had quite a bit of issue with lawyers. Just we had a great like kind of just to give people perspective on the internals. We had a really great lawyer in our jurisdiction for basically all throughout 2020, 20 and early 2021. But then he his practice, his firm that he works for, stopped doing crypto, and so we basically had to we still talk to him occasionally, but had to formally separate ties with him, unfortunately. And we've been reaching out to just multiple crypto lawyers in the space, and have gotten pretty far. We have one that we're currently working with, but it's been a process. Like we'll get we'll get some movement, and then things will stop. They'll either get busy. Everyone's just moving all over the place in crypto all the time, so it's really hard to find like a solid crypto Web3 lawyer. And so this one for the IP, we do have a nice firm that we're working with to prepare that kind of a general licensing agreement for all the different Aavegotchi IP.
Yeah, makes sense. And as their community develops and there's probably more and more community created content, a
Mhm.
streamlined process from that makes sense. And hopefully, initial licensing agreement development will be repeatable with repeat applications.
Yeah, for exactly. Like some, people are wondering why don't you just give the IP and let anyone do it? The idea is that we don't know how big this project is going to be in the future. IP could be really worth a lot one day, and really it's something worth protecting from just in the future. If it can be like a very big thing, and the DAO will also be able to enjoy part of owning or being a part of that project. So we want to be a little bit protective of it in the early period. because we really don't know how big this will get, and so we're just a little bit more conservative on that aspect. But we're definitely open to any sort of experimentation, and we're gonna be very liberal with this agreement. It's just we want to have the agreement in place to protect the IP.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. I'm not seeing any other specific questions on that. The fun update from the Night Adepts is, I believe the plan is to, provide the community some teasers, some updates on how it's going, that progress, because we're funding them for that, 2-minute trailer of what they want to make. So it's super exciting. So stay tuned for updates from them. That second project that we're funding is a little bit smaller in scope. So GMI, Gotchi Media International, put in an application to create some onboarding content. And I believe they've been working alongside Pixelcraft too to kind of make sure that that production looks like things that are official content. And this is mostly videos to how to get Ghost onto Polygon, one of the most common issues that we face. So that was a small funding, but they are half funded. We're just waiting on the delivery of the content. We'll fund the rest. And then quick reminder for the community, if you have something you want to do, something that benefits the Aavegotchi ecosystem, you can submit a proposal to the DAO Treasury Force for funding, and we'll fund you, or at least consider you for funding. So keep an eye out for that. And here, after I'm done, I'll put a link in so everyone has that. And Good
Nice.
Ghosting has not yet applied for funding, but they are welcome to. Quick other updates from the DTF perspective. So we're and some feedback from you on this would be helpful, Dan. So as far as like the ghost that was voted to be put into Aave, the Sin Futures ghost and the Umbria Narni Bridge ghost, I'm guessing officially we've been waiting for the extended DTF multi-sig to make those happen.
I might be wrong, but if I remember correctly, we already transferred the Umbria funds. Could be wrong though, but I could have sworn that we transferred the funds already. I did. I remember going over that with Golden Cross. Maybe it never happened. I'm sorry if it did not, but we gave the green light for that a while back. So yeah, maybe can you guys check your multi-sig and see if it's there? If not, we can move on that because yeah, we've wanted to have that for a month or two now. The Sin Futures, I think, is also in the same boat, but I can ask Golden Cross again if he sent those or not. I don't really handle the treasury part or like the contract. That's more Golden Cross side. So
Gotcha. Well, neither of those were done from our multi-sig at least. So if they would have been done, it would have been done from the Pixelcraft side.
yeah, I think we were going to send them to you guys and have you guys manage that, but
Correct.
maybe that transaction never happened.
It is
So
not.
okay, I will follow up with him on that. And the 3 million, we really would prefer to have the extended DAO multisig ready. And as you know, we did ask for a little bit more knowledge on that. So happy to follow up on how that's going, like after this, I guess.
Sure. I guess that's an appropriate kind of segue into the extended DTF multi-sig. So there was a vote with ranked choice voting to expand the multi-sig to accept like a lot more funds than the 50,000 ghost budget that was granted initially to the DTF. It's a pretty important part of moving forward with the Gotchiverse. And the request to the extended DTF members was to docs to Pixelcraft. And so we've been kind of working through like who's willing to do that and then solidifying how many members we have and if we still have enough that we're willing to docs in order to proceed and have that integrity a large enough multi-sig because that wasn't an initial requirement when that proposal went up. So I think we're still kind of rallying the numbers there and then waiting for some kind of some like legal updates from the Pixelcraft side as far as how we were proceeding from the like the Panama Foundation perspective. And once that there was some more clarity there. I think we'll have a final number on who's willing to dox, and then we can address it if we need to revote or if we can proceed with how many members we already have on the DTF.
Okay. Yeah, the Panama, this is another thing that's been in motion for several months now. And we had one lawyer basically ready to go, and then he literally just, I don't know what happened to him. I think he like passed away or something, but we literally signed an agreement like ready to set it up with him, and he was going to help us. Right, there's some things in the Constitution that we need to clear up with regards to the DAO and giving more power to the DAO in the foundation than a typical Panama foundation. But he literally ghosted us, so we had to go back to square one and find another lawyer who can handle that. So he is basically confirmed, and we should be setting that up very quickly.
Awesome. Well, keep us posted on that end. And then do you have a deadline really from when you need this extended DTF multi-sig to be accepting funds, and especially as we're looking towards like Alchemica and liquidity provision
Yeah.
and things that are pretty necessary for full launch? When do you
Yeah.
need that to be?
Like in my opinion, the foundation does not need to be set up before we have basically the funds transferred over to the DTF. If the members are willing to like docs to us in that time. Again, it's only for AML laws in our jurisdiction. That's really the only reason. If anyone ever asks us like, ooh, okay, you guys sent these on-chain transactions that are obviously coming from Pixelcraft, even though we say no, these are the DAO's funds. The government doesn't really recognize a DAO unless you have a full foundation, and even then, it's still very it's a very big gray area. So we need to ensure that we are not going to be like liable in case. Well, not even liable. It's just the fact that we need to know who we're sending these funds to. It's just as simple as that. If anything over a certain amount of money, if the government ever came to us and said, okay, well, if you can't prove who you sent these funds to, we're just going to assume that you sent them to terrorists or like you were money laundering. And so that's really the only reason that we need to do this. So in my opinion, we don't need to wait for the foundation to be set up to basically proceed with this. The foundation is really more of a long-term entity that will eventually control, not even control, but just basically be a figurehead for the DAO and the legal entities that represent the tokens under the DAO. So, for example, Ghost Limited is it's a BVI entity. You know, we have an entity for it, and currently that entity is kind of under Pixelcraft, and that's not where it should be. It needs to be under a foundation. And so one of the first things we'll be doing when that foundation is set up is moving Ghost Limited, which basically owns the bonding curve and the Ghost tokens. We'll be moving that under the foundation, and same with the Alchemica. We'll be setting up a new entity for the Alchemica to be basically the entity for that, and that'll also be under Aavegotchi DAO, not under Pixelcraft, where it should be.
Yep, makes total sense. And just so the community knows, why we didn't proceed immediately, is there was quite a bit of what is going to be involved in this extended multi-sig if we're doxing, and it's been pretty clear that the GACs will not be under the multi-sig, especially for
Right.
there's quite a
Yeah.
few Americans on the multi-sig. That was a concern, and that won't be
Yeah.
the case.
Yeah, the GACs. Yeah, another reason we need the foundation is that what will be holding the GACs basically. It'll be owned essentially and managed by the Panama Foundation, which is they have very loose rules on virtual asset service providers, and probably the most liberal rules in the world at this point. All the other countries are starting to really become more conservative in that, and so the GACs it's a separate issue, and yeah, needs to be owned by the Panama Foundation. So the multi-sig is not really going to have anything to do with the GACs. The
And
only
that
the only
includes the glitter
relationship
token, right?
Yeah, the only relationship would be the multi-sig with the 15 signers will be providing liquidity to where basically wherever the tokens need liquidity. So the GAX could be one place, QuickSwap could be another place, wherever. So that's it, the multi-sig will not be managing the GAX directly. And even the glitter emissions, it would be best if we had either a separate task force for that, similar to how we had the Friends task force, and then they could basically modulate the emissions of glitter token, so that won't even be something that like the Aavegotchi Foundation would be handling. It's better just to have a task force to be handling that, just like we did with Friends.
Makes sense. All right. From the DTF perspective, the only other thing I have that is related to this is the SOP, the Standard Operating Procedures document that I wrote, and there's been a lot of feedback from. I believe that Hardcore has a link to my SOP built in here, and the goal of this is to really establish like how do we have procedures and policies to remove members if we need to add temporary members, and what's our standard process for reviewing these task forces, especially for the extended DTF multi-sig. That's going to have a lot of funds controlled by that multi-sig. We need to have good methods in place. And as Addison is no longer in good standing with the Pixelcraft team and the or Aavegotchi Discord, it became really clear like, well, if we want to remove him from the multi-sig, how do we do that in a way that respects the DAO and the election process? So any feedback on that is super helpful as we're looking to solidify what that process looks like. But that's a lot. Those are all my updates. I don't see any specific questions popping up for me in the DAO meetings thread.
Yeah, has everyone seen that doc? I'll just post a link to it here as well. I know there's a lot of comments in it, which is great.
And Web, so in my SOP, I outlined that it's whatever voting requirements were established from that group initially. So it's 11 out of 15 multi-sig. So that would be the vote required to remove a member. And if the DTF doesn't have a specific, or if whatever task force didn't have a specific voting requirement, then it would be a 2/3 majority. And then I see
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, as far as what led to the topic of removing him, so I think there was just a pattern of behavior that wasn't up to the conduct behavior that I think we should expect from our DAO leaders. Concerns about gaslighting and racism and immaturity, and just quite a few issues that made us wonder: is this someone that we want in a DAO leadership role? And I'm not really interested in a conduct policy for the entire Aavegotchi ecosystem, but I think it is reasonable to have conduct policy and expectations for our DAO leaders.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just checking our docket to see if anyone else is up. Well, I can keep going with some old business questions. Any update on the Ghost for Friends? And then there was no core prop for that. So do we need one, first of all? And if we don't, how's that going?
Yeah, it's just been shipping season nonstop, so I'm really looking forward to next week. We should be good to put that out. I did reach out to the Aave team about we are using a new. It's not really a new contract, but it's the ERC 4626, which is like a new standard for vaults. So very similar to the CAM token. It's like a new standard for basically depositing a token and for example like an A token and having it be a static token. So we just a little bit of background on that. We were literally hours away from shipping WAM Ghost and deploying it and having it on the UI. And literally, as we were deploying it, the Aave team reached out to me and they said, "Hey, by the way, we're putting out V3 right now, and there's no breaking changes. It'll work fine." But what I discovered when I actually went to run the contract was there was some breaking changes, and it did break the functionality that we had related to the rewards and the reward controller that they have. So we did spend some time looking at how we could potentially include the V3 rewards and basically allow the WAM Ghost holder to enjoy and be able to accrue those rewards. But because of the way the new Aave contract handles rewards, we in the end, after review, we decided it was better just to send all the rewards just to the DAO, which is I think what most other Vault contracts are doing anyway. So like if Matic, if Aave adds a reward for a Matic token, with our original contract, the WAM Ghost holder would have been able to actually claim those rewards because the contract was doing a lot of internal accounting. But with the change that they made, instead of having one reward token, like one Matic, there was an unlimited amount of reward tokens. You could have 100 reward tokens. And so there's this issue of, well, in the future there might be gas claiming issues, and we really didn't want to introduce that kind of risk into the contract. So we made the decision just to send all the rewards to the DAO and let the DAO deal with it. So there's been a couple iterations on that, and eventually we've just gone with the ERC 4626. And so I reached out to the Aave team and asked them, have you guys used this contract at all? It's been used by a lot of other projects and it's been audited, but I wanted to see their perspective on it. They didn't really have anything new. They just said, oh, it's on the radar. We are evaluating it, but they didn't give me anything beyond that. So with these kind of things, I like to give it a little bit of time to let it kind of sit and then look at it, go away for a week, look at it again, and sometimes you'll see things you didn't before. So just giving it a little bit extra time with a review to make sure that there's nothing that we're going to introduce as far as smart contract risk into the Ghost staking contract with this. But yeah, the review period is pretty much over at this point, and now we just need to execute it and then update the pools to include the WAM Ghost pool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that update. And then just for those of us that are joining late or wondering what's going on, we're covering old business, kind of old props that have passed, and where we're standing on those and things that need follow up. And then as far kind of fitting in old business slash new business would be, so the DAO is responsible for like reviewing or confirming some of the Bible chapters. And so I guess what timeline do you need from us for that? And can we operate under an assumption that if there's no like sig props or things from the DAO that it's automatically confirmed, or like what would you guys like to see from the DAO for confirmation?
Yeah, if there's anything that the DAO has strong feelings about and would like to change, um, it would be best if those changes are made before we deploy those contracts or deploy those features, or even really begin implementing those features. So the traits is a great example. We're still a couple months away from that, so there's still some time to debate and discuss and make sig props. For guilds, another one we'll probably be a few months out on that as well. Probably 3 to 4 months, and so there's plenty of time for that. Estates are another one. If there's any rules that you would like to change or clarify, there's a bit of discussion about how to make estates more powerful, and I just responded to that on the forum just now. So that would be another one that there's no real hard deadline, but we can let you guys know when we kind of are ready to start working on those. But there's still a bit of time, so it's not super pressing at this point. The ones that are more pressing could be things like how we want to treat the tokenomics of Alchemica bubble ups. So we decided that to have them, but how much should be gone? How much should be emitted? Uh, how often? Things like that are also things that we could, if the DAO has any thoughts on that, we could definitely discuss that and make that a conversation.
And Dan, on that note, so it's Pixelcraft's allocation of the Alchemica that's responsible for the bubble ups, but you still want the DAO to weigh in on what they to help form like what percentage would be appropriate.
Yeah, so they would be coming from the gameplay vesting allocation, which we that's going to be an allocation that we use for game incentivization and participation. We want to make sure that there's always like a sufficient number of Alchemica being dropped in the game to make sure there's enough to entice players to come on while also not flooding the market. And so it would be if obviously it affects multiple aspects. It affects parcels, it affects Alchemica prices, glitter. So I believe it'd be fine if the DAO wanted to weigh in on the frequency and the amount and the placement of the bubble ups.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have someone take that on. If there's a bubble up champion out there for what a
Yeah.
good emissions rate would be, and obviously with some data to support that, and then leaving room for allocation for gameplay other than the bubble ups. Don't just blow the whole load on
Mhm.
bubble up emissions.
Yeah, another one is so Quincy mentioned the solo channeling time frame adjustments and a possible new contract. So yeah, we are 17 days away from that going live. That's probably the most urgent. So if there's any changes like that we want to make to, for example, the window, 24 hours, um, a sig prop would be useful to have, and we could potentially get a full core prop out in the next 17 days if we need to. Mm, if there's overwhelming desire to have that, then it's probably not even necessary to have a core prop, but we could do it for the XP. It shouldn't be a huge modification to the contract. And just for clarification on that, that is basically instead of the cooldown for the channeling starting immediately after and lasting for 24 hours, you would basically have a fixed time every day that is probably set when the contract is deployed, and that would basically be a window every 24 hours. You could channel once within that window, and it would reset at the same time every day instead of having the cooldown kind of being extended. If you miss your window, you'd have to your cooldown will suddenly be delayed by a couple minutes or hours.
Any engagement concern if you could log in 2 minutes before the period ends and then 2 minutes after the period ends, so that you only need to log in once every 48 hours?
uh, yeah, could be. I'm sure there are downsides to this approach. It is, yeah. I don't really have a strong opinion on it. So if the DAO has a strong opinion on it, we can definitely implement something. Basically, but I did have a strong opinion on, someone was saying to reduce the cooldown and have it, you could spend glitter to reduce it, or I think it was like the higher kinship or XP would reduce the cooldown. And in my opinion, we don't really need to do that. The Gotchi UBI it's once a day, and if you start adding in things like kinship or XP allowing you to channel more often, you're just bringing on new supply of Alchemica that's ultimately just going to get dumped anyway. Or some people might use it, but others are just gonna rent a Gotchi and get the Alchemica and then dump it. So you're just adding more sell pressure, which is ultimately going to could push down floor prices of Aavegotchis to begin with. So I don't think that's really a great idea.
I'm seeing really broad support for this here. I think as someone that owns a lot of gotchis, it would be really great to have a full window, because it's impossible to log in with a gotchi after gotchi and
Yeah.
not lose time. Say
Yeah.
Quincy, I think having a sig prop could be useful to really get the community's feedback on it. If you want to go, I think it was his initial
Okay. I think
post.
it was Slick.
Or it was Slick. All right. Well, Quincy, Slick, if I can task you guys to put up a sig prop with
Okay, cool. Yeah.
with proper form, and I think you'll get overwhelming support and deserved XP for pointing something awesome out like that.
Yep.
All right, that's what I have for strict new business. I have some other stuff for discussions, but I'm happy to give up the floor to. I know Harambe wants to talk about eyes, and I think while maybe we bring some people up, one of the questions I had for you, Dan, is kind of how do we think about the Aavegotchi DAO protocol and how we think about the Gotchiverse, and what the roles of like this meeting would be in determining DAO protocol specifics versus like Gotchiverse specifics and like eye traits, because sometimes it feels like we might be getting too granular with our recommendations or hopes as a community. When I'm wondering if we should focus on Aavegotchi DAO protocol things and leave Pixelcraft to the Gotchiverse for specifics. And how are you thinking about that, and how should we think about that moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, we are building the Gotchiverse, and we really, because it is the flagship game of Aavegotchi, we really do believe that as much community feedback and this two-way process as possible is good. Obviously, there's some things that the community might propose that are just a little bit outside of what we're able to do at this moment, or would be on a longer time frame, and we're happy to like say probably not going to be able to implement that yet at this point, but definitely an interesting idea. So, for example, the estates that we were just talking about, there's some ideas about making an estate have like a shared reservoir where you could have like a Keck reservoir on one parcel and a Flood reservoir on another parcel, and they would kind of you might have a harvester on one and the opposite on another parcel with another reservoir, and somehow they would flow into each other because they're on the same estate, and that something like that is just not really feasible on the contract side because all this is on chain. As far as the calculation of like the alchemicals and the harvesting, so you can't really have one NFT's Alchemica flowing into another NFT without really doing a lot of work outside of the contract. And so that's just one example. But I think as anything that touches the NFTs, kind of where we draw the line is we say if it's going to influence the value of the NFT, then the DAO should definitely have a voice and be involved in the process. And that, I mean, for the Gotchiverse, that's basically everything. It's a lot. So that's why we do value all the feedback that comes from the community in the Gotchiverse.
Awesome. And you guys have been so great about that and being open to feedback. And thanks for helping shed some light on that. I did forget my personal new business piece. So I did the SIG prop passed for land auction and land raffle number 3 for 8,000 parcels, 70% in the auction, 30% in the raffle. And then for full community transparency, so Jesse posted up in the DAO forums what other options would look like, including a 10,000 parcel option. And so I think my plan is to leave my SIG prop as passed, but if the community feels strongly that they would like a 10,000 parcel auction, or if they want to change any of the specifics from my proposal, then put that SIG prop forward, put it up to the community, and see if that gets more broad support. But otherwise, my plan was to leave my SIG prop as passed, leave sufficient time this week, and then look for maybe a core prop to come from the Pixelcraft team here in a week or so to confirm land sale number 3. And if any, I'm open to feedback on if there should be any changes to that, or if we need to do anything differently before a core prop comes up.
Would you prefer that the land sale is obviously it's going to be after May 18th, and would you prefer that it comes it, before, alongside, or immediately or after the actual harvester reservoir release, because they are going to be staggered.
I don't. I mean, I left it kind of intentionally vague and just per pixel craft discretion with exact timing because I feel like you guys have really good insight into what is coming when, like what's doable, what's reasonable, how to triage and prioritize yourselves. So I have the first 2 weeks of June to give you guys that.
Okay.
But if there's any other feedback from the community on what they would like to see, that'd be good. In general, I like the idea of if people are buying land because they're excited to farm it, it'd be nice to be able to go use it right away. But none of the current landowners have been able to do that, so it would be fine if someone has to hold on to their parcel for a while as well.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's definitely upsides and downsides to each. Doing it before surveying would be probably the most. It would obviously be the most equitable for the new buyers, but the old buyers would probably not be very happy with that, because basically the land would be kind of devalued before they even got to survey it. Although they would have a little bit of value derived from the channeling. So I think it probably would make sense to do it after surveying is live.
And we don't
But
have a date for that, right?
not a super confirmed date. We're going to be working super hard to get the alters and some more anti-bot stuff implemented by the 18th, and I think we're making, as far as I know, we're pretty much on track for that. So if we can hit that milestone, then everything else should be fairly quick. But there is it's a lot of UI work, really. But the contract side is generally done.
Then kind of clarifying the order of things. So the altar for channeling, and then it would be altar for surveying, and then harvester, and then reservoir.
The surveying and the harvesters would and the reservoirs would all come at the same time. So basically, once you can survey, you'll know what's on your parcel, and you could also start harvesting it immediately. We're not planning to survey and then wait a couple weeks and then allow the harvesting.
Got it. That's helpful.
There's also quite a few changes to the Bazaar UI that we'll need to make. It's like once you've equipped a golden altar onto your parcel, that's probably something that should show up in the in the Bazaar UI. Like what installations are equipped on the parcel is pretty important. So we're going to need to change the Bazaar UI quite a bit to accompany that, accommodate that.
Do you think the first 2 weeks of June is too strict of a timeline to be able to roll everything out and to do
Mm,
a sale?
it it might be a little bit optimistic.
What
We
about
will we
just June, like in general?
Yeah.
Would that perhaps be better?
Yeah, like I said, I would frame it as, do we want to do it before, during, or immediately after the harvesting release goes live? And that would make it kind of easier for us to plan a little bit, because we're going to try to push it in June, and it should be fine. But just in case, if we have a strict deadline from the DAO that says, no, the sale needs to happen in first 2 weeks of June, and we're like, okay, we can do it, but uh that nothing's going to be live yet. That would be my concern.
All right. Well, lots of
Um,
feedback
I'm looking
here.
at the
It
chat
sounds like
here.
we have a week for the community to consider a different sig prop, like other than mine too. And let's touch base
Mhm.
before the core prop, and then integrate feedback from everybody on timing here for when exactly like what the verbiage should be for the deadline for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right. As far as other new business goes, I know there's multiple people really interested in eyes, or any of the eye people here.
Let's see. Hardcore is coming up.
I think Harambe and Hardcore are the eye people.
Or well, actually, Slim was the other main one on this. If Notorious BTC is around, I know that he also had some fairly strong ideas on the subject. Really, I don't have anything to present here other than the fact that well, you should go to the Miro board for that if you have any ideas for it. And we've laid out some templates for you so you can throw down your ideas and lay them out and play with it and see if you can create some sort of a structure that makes sense. But the other reason I wanted to bring this to the table is this is such a weird topic that we don't know if anything we're even doing is something that is going to fit into Pixelcraft's reality, or which parts we want to make. I mean, we know we want to do a whole bunch of things and use them for role play stuff, but there is a subsection of this that is going to be something on chain where it affects the actual Aavegotchi NFT and not just the realm. And what is that? What is this permanent thing that we're doing that eyes actually do? Is it its carry capacity? Is it? I mean, there's only a couple things that could be going on here. That without creating like layers of effects where we've doubled down on where it's in the other 4 traits, and then it's in wearables, and then if you add that, you get this stacking where you've got like a double godlike ability, and it's not okay then. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I would like to have something to kick back to Pixelcraft by next week if we could just at least come to some sort of an idea, or if someone wants to really push their idea, go for it, because nobody seems to want to actually push their idea. We just have a million ideas.
What are
And
like just for everyone's edification, what are the top like 3 ideas right now?
Oh, well, okay, let me. It was linked in the actual thread. If you go to the thread that we've got linked, I'll post this real quick. There's some polls, and actually the controversial one I'd like to ask the group is, remember when we had the tower defense game, and if you had collateralized your Gotchi didn't shoot hearts, it shot its collateral. Would people like to have that be a mechanic for the collateralize? That would be a ranged weapon that's built into about 1 in 20 Gotchis. And then on the other end of that, there is the all the retired eyes and all the low myths. And those could be a built-in special melee attack. Because there's equal numbers, and it would just be a small bit of unique flavor. It might be just the equivalent of like the Gotchi automatically comes with like the level 1 boost for melee or range, and it just looks different because it's special.
So basically, the
We've
eyes
got to
as
do
like
something really
a
special
weapon.
for these that doesn't unbalance the game. But people have been, I searched the entire history of Aavegotchi and every place anyone's ever typed about this, and there is an overwhelming nonstop of OGs telling newbies that double myth is what's up.
Yeah.
So, like, either we're rugging people or being predatory, or double myth is what's up.
Well, I wouldn't say it's rugging or predatory. It's their aesthetics, and they're just like, if you think of a Bored Ape, it's just one of the rarest traits. Whether or not the Gotchiverse interprets that rarity as, oh, let me give you a seriously OP thing. I wouldn't say that they're getting like rugged because the aesthetics haven't changed. It's just how the game's interpreting it.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that is why I put that poll in there too, because in all actuality, based on what you said there is true. So it might be sufficient just to make them look like collateral. That might be fine. Like, there you go. You've got your bling. Or it might have a bonus. Where do we want to go with that? But I mean, that is definitely one surefire way where just changing what the image it's shooting is giving people a very high like perceived value without changing anything as far as stats.
So it kind of sounds like you're saying, let the eyes should, instead of like shooting hearts, we're gonna shoot laser beams out of our eyes. And
oh well, that was another person's idea. What I'm talking about here is just as simple as you're shooting the link symbol. You're shooting Bitcoin at people.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
So
just replace the just
right,
straight up replacement.
Right now we have hearts. Let's replace the hearts. Maybe the value of how much damage it does could be the same, or maybe it could be different. But well, let's just replace the heart with a link symbol or a Bitcoin symbol, and that it basically does the same thing as a heart, but it just looks really cool. And maybe double myth would just look super cool as your base attack.
Yeah, like your yeah, I mean straight up right there. The eye color. I mean that's so easy. Eye color equals color of attack. And if you've got the myth, then you got extra fancy. We could do other stuff with it later, but that's a solid difference that you could point at and say, well, this is different. That's why it's different. It's not just like a pink eye, you know, now you've got pink hearts.
What if you equip a weapon though? I'm just wondering, so the heart is basically a default attack that all gotchis have. And so if you equip a weapon, then would you still have this Alchemica eye attack, or the eye attack?
Well, I think actually with the attacks and stuff, we should be having like there's an attack and an alt attack, because your Gotchi can do more than one thing. But I mean, you're going to end up with double weapons anyways, a lot on tons of Gotchis. But actually, when in a game like this where there's lag and like multiple servers and things get really chaotic at times, it's important to be able to identify which action was your action. So if the little visual cues, like when you hit somebody, if that's the color of your eyes, it'll help you see what you did, or if you hit people, or what's going on there.
Yeah. One challenge I see with the eyes is that because the floor price of the eye is so much higher, if you start attaching a specific utility to it, like your double myth eyes are going to do 10% more damage, then you're actually bringing that value down because it becomes more mundane compared to just the utility of looking at it and that aesthetic value, which is could be actually damaging. So what we don't want to do is nerf it by giving a utility that is marginal that actually ends up hurting the floor price. So it could just be, like you say, like something purely aesthetic, and which is what the eyes have always been about anyway. Just something that it's a flex, like it's your clout.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things that fit into this vein that we can do that they're purely aesthetic, but they also have utility, which is it's a rare thing here. But yeah, things like the little thing that appears where you hit somebody, like it's like a star, whatever happens when you hit somebody, that can be colored. Messages can be colored. If you I mean, this is very much like an RTS game, and if you're familiar with those, when you build a building, like if you're the red team, like there might just be like this little red pinstripe on it or whatever. and there's usually like one part of the model that can be a different color, and your eyes could be like that. So when you're building walls, the walls you build might be different colors. And this would enable people to use groups of Gotchis to make different things, because now you've got 7 colors. Or actually, you've got the collateral colors too. So there's actually a rainbow, and it would be a reason for people to do community-based art projects. Or not a reason, an enabler.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of discussion here. But
Mhm.
how far away are we from needing to know what eyes will do?
Yeah, again, it's the traits release will be coming after the harvesting release. So that's when all the weapons and traits, the movement speeds and alchemica pickup will all come and be enabled within the gameplay. So we're still a couple months out for that. So we have plenty of time to iterate on it, but it would be good to pick a theme. Like, do we want them to be purely aesthetic, or do we want them to have some sort of utility? If it is a utility, how do we grapple with the fact that some of these eyes are going for 50, 30 to 40, 50 times the multiples of a normal gotchi, and obviously we can't give 50x the marginal utility. So how do you grapple with that?
Yeah, an observation I had on this is it's okay. So it's not an emergency to figure this out now, but the issue with not figuring this out and at least accomplishing something here on this and then moving on is that this traits process and the wearables is kind of a circle here, where we set the first 4 traits and modified that, and then that means now we got to do something with this one, and so we have more information about the wearables now, and we need to do something with this one to make sure that these 3 things are in balance and not interfering with each other before we go back and play with anything on pass 2 for the other items. So we just need to, as Dan was saying, like, set a ground, like, what is this going to affect? What's the sphere of influence?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of discussion on it, and there's no correct answer. It's really just what the community's preference is and what we think will retain the value of the eyes and help people coming into the community understand that these are the coolest thing. Like someone said, these are the golden altars of Aavegotchis. If that's how we want to do it, or these are, or it's like if you want to come into this game and you want to be a very powerful gotchi, you gotta have these eyes. If you don't have the eyes, then you're gonna be at a lower level. That would be basically two ways to frame it.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Well-
Hello.
Okay, so you made a comment about the mythical eyes being X more expensive in the bazaar than a regular gotchi, right? And how you obviously can't provide that much of a boost in terms of stats or power. But if you've ever played a game like Path of Exile or Diablo or anything, the base level items are very cheap. For example, like anyone can get a very common item, but the higher end items are super expensive. But they aren't multiples better than the next than the tier lower than that. They're slightly better, but people are willing to pay an exorbitant amount for these perfect or near perfect items just because they are that, even though they don't provide that much bonus. So like my point is that people will still be willing to pay a large amount for a small bonus because no one else can get that bonus from another factor.
Right. It's
If
kind of
that
like
makes
having
sense.
just like it's like having a Stone of Jordan, like a
Yeah,
super
exactly.
powerful item.
Yeah, so like people like they don't need to be like I don't know the price difference between a mythical and a non-mythical, but whatever the price difference is, it doesn't need to be that much. It can honestly be like 5 or 10%, and it would be enough.
Well, it would have to be a benefit that only the eyes have, right? Because there we have things like AP regeneration or AP capacity that can be modified by wearables, especially godlikes. So if you put them in the same category as okay, these double myths are basically like godlikes, that would be one way to do it. Then they're kind of people are going to compare their value against a godlike. Maybe that's the right way to do it.
So
But yeah.
yeah, like on that tip, the if you look in the eyes document, I pasted it in I pasted that little section in the chat. There's just an amazing amount of really good, cool things that we can do with eye color and eye shape that create different types of content experiences. And it might be, you know, so maybe the reason that these eyes are more valuable is that these are the ones that well, there's certain experiences that you are going to come out a certain way because you've got that. And so it might be more valuable to someone trying to rent it as a role-playing character. Because as was said before with the as was said yesterday, the low BRS like swag 50 Gotchi, well, that's a farmer. That's fine. Like it doesn't matter what his stats are to empty harvesters. And then all of these, the more fancy they get, the more role play ended they become. Where you might be wasting your time farming with this guy. It's supposed to be killing liquidators or you know, trying to solo the main quest.
Right.
Sorry, my dogs ran downstairs. But I heard your comment about the differentiating stats between like godlikes and mythical eyes. And I mean, I don't necessarily agree. Like they could provide the same or similar benefits, but this is still just something you can, like, you're never like, there's still going to be a difference between the person who has godlike equipables and mythical eyes versus someone who just has the godlike equipables. It's still a benefit that other people can't get just from this one specific thing, and that in and of itself would have extreme value depending on like what can be actually done in the Gotchiverse.
Well, I'm going to try to keep us on track a little bit. So, you know, the goal of this is to get through DAO business, and it just feels like there needs to be quite a bit more discussion here. There's a lot of thoughts. We have some time. I think people that are interested and passionate about this, like, get together or stay on the call afterwards, or have an eye committee or whatever we need to do. But I think we have a couple more things that I would like to cover.
Yeah, no, actually, I was about to say I think we've thrown enough gas on the fire here that I bet you some people step up after this, or maybe even during this, and start throwing down ideas on this. I'm done.
Yeah, hardcore, Zeko, Harambe, whoever wants to take on eye traits, all the other people get together, think about this more, and keep the conversation going on the DAO forums, and we can maybe have an update from you guys next week. One of the other things I was hoping to cover, so there's really 3 kind of active proposals from the wearable task force that we could have a combo proposal to push those things forward. I think there was like 2 different wearable sets that needed a possible update, and then addition of multiple set bonuses. I think those likely have really broad support and probably don't need individual proposals. But if anyone was representing those initial like discussions on the DAO forum and wanted to bring that up, that'd be great. And if not, we should push those to a SIGPROP so we can get those through before rarity farming season 4 comes.
Is there a forum, just like a discussion forum post for that somewhere?
Yeah, there's 3. So I will work on posting those up in here. They were all like, pretty small.
Those are all okay. So those are all posted. If you look at the bottom right of the board, I went through and found every topic that is currently relevant and well, very interesting or about ready to go. And then I linked them all. And those are all the people that didn't decide to bring their topic to this meeting today. But yeah, that's the rest of the interesting stuff.
Okay.
I'd like to
Yeah.
task the wearables task force to push those forward if you're going to. I see Diddly Poo here. I can't remember who else is on the WTF.
Yeah, Acteon, Avid, Diddlypoo, Phantasma, Kakusho, Machete, and Thunderfish are in the chat, at least online.
And then while we're running through task forces and possible new business, so something for us to think about is what we're doing with Ghost for Glitter, and Friends. We've had some kind of broad, big picture discussion for Ghost for Glitter. And I think we need a lot of work to think about the impact of that, like what that would look like. We don't really know what glitter is going to be valued at, which makes it really difficult. And then the possible harms that would come for a transition to Ghost for Glitter. And I think this would be really good work for the Friends Task Force to take a stab at. What are our Friends emissions? Like, what are the general numbers that we need to know to consider a transition of Ghost to Glitter as possibility? Has Pixelcraft, or have you done any of that work at all, Dan?
Yeah, we have a model internally that we prepared last week for a potential valuation. Let me see if I can open that doc. Find it here. So there's a couple different models. You have one would be, and we're going to be making a proposal about this next week, because glitter is getting very real very soon, and so we want to have the community just understand where we're coming with on in terms of price of glitter. So one valuation would be how much Alchemica it allows a guild to channel. Basically, if the guild wins, if you're number one on the leaderboard or the GBM auction, how much you would be able to channel, and there's a model for that. Second would be, and I think this is probably the simplest one, is we would look at the FDV, the fully diluted valuation of the 4 Alchemica tokens, and basically just take the average of that and say, okay, this is pretty much what the market has valued Alchemica at this point. If we added a fifth Alchemica, it would probably be in this range. And so we would just take the average FDV of those and then calculate out the glitter price, which I think when we did this calculation came out to about 0.002 or $0.003, because there's a trillion glitter total, so the price would be lower. And then finally, the other valuation, which put it at a higher price, would be basically looking at how much glitter you would need to build an altar plus a lodge level 9, and without basically speeding it up as fast as possible. So the fastest build, how much glitter would you need? What would it cost in Alchemica to get that equivalent, and calculating that out? So that comes out to a higher valuation. But in my opinion, I think the simplest one is just to look at the FDV and just take the average of the Alchemica.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. One of my concerns about transitioning to Ghost for Glitter is, if glitter is going to be what we use for raffle tickets, which is essentially access to future content in Aavegotchi, does it become too expensive to use glitter for its intended purpose of speeding up time? Because obviously friends are valuable. So if we use glitter for raffle tickets, is it going to be too expensive to really use glitter or not? And I think on one hand, this really ties the ecosystem together really nicely, that there's not this like friends off chain, off in a corner that a lot of people struggle to understand. Like, this would bring it all together. And then we have to make decisions. I'm going to use this Alchemica to LP and to get glitter. And what am I using my glitter for? Am I using it for future content or speeding things up, or for my crest? And I think it has a really nice concept, but I'm wondering about the impact of price and valuation for its intended use.
Yeah, well, I think the market would probably find the equilibrium point between the utility, the intended utility of burning it, and the other kind of new added utility of using it, converting it into tickets. So it would, yeah, I mean, it could have a negative impact where people say it's I don't want to spend it on my installations because I could just hold on to it and wait for raffle tickets. But
And confirming
yeah,
Choina's question, it's not realistic to convert friends to glitter, correct?
Yeah, we would have to look at the current supply. I believe last time we did a raffle, there was how many friends were there? Was like 2 billion friends were used. So it could be if we went that way, it would probably be pretty messy. I wouldn't really recommend it. What we've been thinking is let's do a couple raffles and let's basically spend all the friends that people want to spend, and have a couple big blowout raffles, which we'll be releasing some info on probably next week or the week after. And if you just converted it, I don't think you'd want to do a 1-to-1 conversion. I think that would probably just demolish the value of glitter token. There'd be a lot of selling, most likely, and it would also speed up the velocity of the game play, which we're trying to do a controlled launch where you don't have like level 9 reservoirs and level 9 harvesters within the first week, because it's just going to end up creating more supply, which people are just gonna some extractors will just sell that and make it harder to maintain a healthy Alchemica economy until we have more sinks online. So if you have too much glitter up front, it kind of speeds up the whole economy by quite a lot.
For sure. And from a legal perspective, does it need to be the DAO that proposes a transition to Ghost for Glitter instead of Ghost for Friends? Just with
It would be great. That
tokenomics.
would definitely any time a big decision related to tokenomics is going through. Definitely, it's better if it's not us, pushing it through, proposing it. If
And then
there's
did you
sig
have any?
prop and then a core prop.
Sure. Did you have any dream like deadline for like when we would do this, or internally, like you guys have discussed, it would be nice to convert to Ghost for Glitter by X timeframe?
Yeah, I think what we could do is we could start offering staking your ghost and earning glitter, and we could basically have the two systems going at the same time. So if you prefer to get friends before the raffle, then you could convert with friends, knowing that there's raffles coming up. If you don't want to do that, you could then move your ghost over to staking for glitter. Yeah, and potentially we could have a Wham Ghost for glitter as well. So, because it's really Wham Ghost is just it's a token. It can be deposited anywhere, so it wouldn't be too hard to have that pool. And once we have both of those systems going, and then that's at that point then the DAO could say, okay, now we're just going to you might not even need to stop offering utility for Ghost in Friends, but we would just say the conversion of friends to raffle tickets is going to be suspended, but it might, and we would just remove it from the UI. So it would be the same thing as saying you can't stake for friends anymore, but there's like not everyone in the community is paying attention to everything, so we can't just turn off staking. But they might come back 3 months and say, hey, well, I have all these friends, what can I do with them? Like, well, sorry, you can't do anything with them. The raffle tickets have to be bought with glitter now. But yeah, that would be, if we have both systems going at the same time, then you might have like an arb opportunity between the two, which probably isn't ideal.
Right.
So lots of thought process involved. It probably makes the cleanest transition would just be basically turning off friends while then turning on glitter. Once we've established that glitter will be the reward token for friends and not for ghost and not friends anymore.
I mean, I've wondered myself a lot, like, does it make sense to really incentivize single-sided ghost staking? Like, that's not really providing any utility to the system. Like, would this be an opportunity to, like, it would have to be wham ghost for glitter instead of solo staking ghost for glitter?
Could be, yeah. We could definitely do that. And I even think we should incentivize pools a little bit more and providing liquidity, especially for the big pools like Ghost USDC and Ghostmatic maybe. And then the Alchemica pools would need to be incentivized a little bit more because they're very volatile. The IL could definitely be real in those pools. But I think having Wham Ghost would be nice instead of just normal Ghost.
Right, because it's providing value to the ecosystem that way, and then it's being incentivized accordingly versus single-sided staking. I guess we're incentivizing holding it, and that has some value. But there's a lot to do
Don't
there.
nuke single staking Ghost. So for that, I get that, but it's also really easy for them to on the UI to just they don't even realize they're putting into Aave. They're gonna basically click a button, it'll say deposit, and then there'll be two buttons. One will be deposit into Aave and one will be deposit into the staking contract. So it really is not a big difference in terms of the experience. They don't even realize they're putting it into Aave.
And that's the fun thing about building blocks of DeFi is that they won't know they were doing that, but it's going to be getting used, and then it would also be getting the Aave yield, right? So maybe even more value, which is exciting.
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of work to do there. I don't know if there's any of the Friends Committee here that would like to help take some of that on. This would be the opportunity to update our emissions rates for the different pools to make sure we get those right, especially with bear market and the volatility, to readjust those and have those set. But we're probably at least a couple months out from doing that, right, Dan?
Well, we are going to be looking at the rebalancing for where we are currently. When we do the Ghost WAM Ghost update, we will look at the rates and make sure they're up to date with what they were supposed to be. I think last time I checked, Ghost USDC was actually lower than it was supposed to be. So that one might need to be bumped up a little bit, and then Ghost Quick is, like always, I'm sure Ghost Quick is much higher than it's supposed to be. So we'll also bring that back down if it needs to be. That'll be whenever WAM Ghost gets deployed.
Well, it's probably appropriate to start a more formal DAO forum thread on Ghost for Glitter, so the people not on this call can weigh in, and we can start that process. If there's any volunteers to take that on, that would be great. Otherwise, I can work on something this week.
Yeah, I think it's a really great, a good direction to go. We've wanted to have a token for a while. It's just transition and the utility was the main question. What would be the utility of having the token versus just having the balance and also the transition. So if we can do it in a clean, controlled way, then it could be very powerful.
And from a speculative perspective, this is great for Ghost, right? If it had a discrete token that has a lot of utility, that if you can stake Ghost to earn it versus off-chain friends. So we're in the open discussion period. Like, any other things people would like to bring up or proposals they're thinking about putting forward that we can discuss and get on the table for community feedback?
Actually, well, the channeling cooldown, I think someone should at least give a quick rundown on what that is and how that's going to affect people, because it looks like we're probably going to do it, and maybe we should decide that we're just going to do it. But everyone should, yeah, someone a little more eloquent should verbally explain that to the group so that everyone is fully aware of what's going on, and then there's not like 2 weeks of people going, so what's that mean?
Dan, could you
We
take
covered that a little bit
how that would be
earlier, but yeah, go for it.
Okay, well, what am I putting in there then for next steps? Like, let's go down the list here. The DAO. DAO SOP, what is the next step? And who's
if you
doing it?
have, yeah, if there's feedback for it, put it in there. Otherwise, we'll consider the SOP like a finalized document this week. On my post, I asked for 2 questions, like, are you happy with this? Does it need update? And there's about 70% that support it as it is. And then do we need to pass a SIG and core prop for this SOP to go live? And largely that vote has been like, no, we don't. Like, we can adopt this SOP. And I think that's reasonable, right? For the established task forces to kind of establish their own policies. But definitely
Is
interested in
this-
feedback
So-
from the community.
Is this
How
for
about I just
the?
put down you've got till next weekend to add changes and voice your opinion, and then we'll ratify it next weekend?
Correct. And I guess we can think of the SOP a little bit separately than the standard of conduct that Gadfly and you guys were going to work on. But I think we can consider that a final doc, and then you guys work on the standard of conduct separately, because I do have them listed as separate documents.
The SOP should probably go through a SIG prop and core prop, because if it's going to be kind of canon for all committees that are created, well, it would be good to have that ratified by the DAO. We can have a
So
quick
how about
turnaround on
core
that.
prop once we have a code of conduct to tie it to?
Yeah, that makes sense. Just get one thing through the DAO. All right. What if Gadfly, you guys can work on that? Maybe is a week enough time for you guys to get a code of conduct up and then some feedback for it? Awesome.
Who was taking that, the code of conduct? Who wanted to do that?
Gadfly and Quincy. I'm really volunteering Gadfly up for a lot of work here. I'm sorry. All right. Any other?
Oh yeah,
Open
and then
discussion,
who's moving forward the land?
So that anyone in the community can put up another proposal if they don't like the one that was passed. And otherwise, Pixelcraft can draft their core prop next week with maybe some feedback from the community on maybe not first 2 weeks of June, but more broad timeline given to them in the core prop.
Okay, so I put make competing proposal, or we use the one that passed. Channeling cooldown. Are we done there?
And Quincy will put up a SIG prop.
And yeah, okay, that's everything. Awesome.
Right. Other open discussion, new business, or proposals that people have been wanting to bring up and get feedback on?
I saw there's one player name versus Gotchi name, which is, I think it's pretty interesting. We are working on a Discord integration, which is actually going to be quite useful for the anti-botting. And so look forward to basically linking your Discord into the Gotchiverse. The initial use case will be if you get shadow banned, you can basically appeal by linking your Discord, and if your Discord has a high enough score, which will be kind of a black box that we're going to have of various metrics in Discord, then you'll automatically get unshadow banned. So you don't, if you're already in good standing in the Gotchiverse, you likely wouldn't need to. But I think it will be interesting to have the ability for people to link their Discord to the Gotchiverse. And so that, now, whether or not we want to use Discord versus Gotchi name, probably could. It would be pretty trivial to do that if we wanted to have your Discord name showing up instead of your Gotchi name. So that would be definitely possible to do. I don't really think we need a DAO proposal on that, because doesn't really affect the NFT value at all. It would just be if it's a good gameplay.
I see a
Yeah,
comment
Trina
here
says,
from.
are there any
go ahead.
non-Discord users? Like, if you're not in the Aavegotchi Discord, you're not gonna make it at this point. They're basically it's the central hub for everything at this point. Until we have a full Gotchiverse where we can make announcements and there's all sorts of ways to interact there beyond just picking up Alchemica. It's I don't think it's gonna change for a while. So not really worried about people who don't have Discord at this point.
My last active question I see here, Webb is asking about rental channeling rights implementation strategy. I guess I don't know exactly what the question is there or what the timeline is from Pixelcraft, but it's going to be like a staged process, right? The granular channeling rights.
Yeah, we are planning to have borrowing. Basically, the for alchemical channeling, we'll have borrowing and only owner. We'll have those live by the 18th. That's the goal for that, as outlined in the Bible. And the other ones, the whitelist, the blacklist, and all Aavegotchis will be coming a little bit later because they're not as crucial. But we will be eventually implementing those.
Lots of questions coming in here as we're trying to close out. Diddley's wondering, you guys are working on Glitter. Will there be LP incentives before the channeling release, or do we have a timeline for Glitter? And I guess have we decided on Balancer versus QuickSwap, or what are we doing before the GAX is ready?
So yeah, well, I don't see there's really any reason to go on Balancer, because if you have a pool with Ghost and the 4 tokens all in the same pool, it just means you have to hold all 4 Alchemica and Ghost, which you might not necessarily want to. So we are aiming to have some glitter incentives live and supporting the pools basically as channeling is going live. So if people want to get glitter and also do larger trades on QuickSwap, they would be able to. That's the idea. Yeah, we are aiming to have those live before the 18th.
Right, and then there's quite a bit of community discussion on can we use installations while they are upgrading.
Yep.
I think, and the yes is the answer.
That's the yeah. It will still be like if you're on level 3 and you're upgrading to level 4 on chain, it's still level 3, so it'll be level 3.
Well, that was very easy, guys. Maybe the easiest thing we did today.
Thank you for that. I am now officially down off the wall for the weekend. I was terrified.
Oh, I did see. Let me address something I saw. Forget who it was. They were asking, why can't we like upgrade an installation off of our parcel, basically in our inventory, and then sell it in the bazaar and have better, liquidity for installations. And we made that design decision because if you allow people to basically upgrade their altars to level 9 without even having it on a parcel, you're making the game skew much more towards the pay to win side, and also speeding up the economy quite a bit by letting people just directly buy in and put their altar and start immediately channeling at a level 9 without doing any work. So it was a pretty pointed decision not to allow that. And I'm personally not really worried about like the installation market's liquidity, because all the installations can be crafted from level 1, and there's no limit as far as the base installations. There's no limit on how many can be crafted. Now the golden altar, that one I do expect like more trading and transactions to happen on that side. But again, you're going to be trading a level 1 golden altar. You're not going to be trading a level 9 golden altar.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense to be able to upgrade it within like outside of the verse because then the makers wouldn't do anything. You could just have different wallets, infinite different wallets, upgrading different buildings. It just
It would be
it wouldn't make any
game-breaking.
sense.
Yeah, it's part of the fun. It's like you put it down, and well, once it's down, you can't take it off. You can move it around on that parcel, but you can't take it off, and that's just part of the gameplay. That's the core game loop. That's not going to change at this point.
All right, we're coming up on an hour and a
tiles.
half.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I
Yeah,
don't know.
so-
I guess
so-
I'm trying to balance between keeping it like our DAO meeting and like feeling like a hangout. But
Sure,
I guess your time is valuable, and if you're willing to answer questions, we can go for it. If that's okay, we'll wrap up the DAO side. Any other announcements from the DAO perspective before people can just hang out and chat?
I was just gonna say, if anyone had new business, just feel free to bomb my DMs at any time, and I'll add you to the next week, like all the way up through next Saturday. Even if it's right after they hang out next week, we can get you on the schedule.
Yep.
Just speak up.
Yeah, it's
And
a
then
great first meeting, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really appreciate all the feedback from everybody. Could be good to have like a minutes. I know that we have this recorded and we have our
Time
mural board.
is. I believe Time is actually running a document in the background.
Yes,
It's the
awesome.
document I linked up right up here. I didn't check to see if he was doing that while we were doing this because I'm trying to manage the other thing. But in the future, that we would like to do it using that.
He did
So
it,
that
and it's very thorough.
that day's archivist or scribe is just typing.
Awesome. Well, people can keep hanging out. I gotta call it a morning, but appreciate you
Yep.
guys. Look forward to next
Thanks,
week.
Doc. I'll also head out. Thanks, everyone. See you guys. Yeah, tomorrow we'll have. I don't think we're having an official big hangout for the social mode, but we'll definitely be in the Gotchiverse during the launch. So we'll make an announcement very soon about when that's going to start. So everyone have a great Sunday. Later.
Okay, thanks, Dan. See you guys.
Thank you.